Hey, did you ever encounter a father and son that acted so different and behaved differently from one another that it left you thinking, can they possibly even be related? Well, stick around. You're about to meet a couple of them today. Hey, welcome back. This is David again, and it's August the 2nd. And today we have two contrasting stories from the Old Testament. From 2 Kings chapters 20 and 21, we're going to take a look at two of Judah's kings, Hezekiah and his son Manasseh. And let me tell you, the reigns of these two guys couldn't be more different from one another. In fact, it's hard to imagine that they're even related to one another. So let's get started with Hezekiah in 2 Kings chapter 20. Now, Hezekiah, he's generally considered one of the good guys in Judah's history. He led a spiritual revival, tearing down all the idols and restoring worship to God. But even good things face trials, right? In chapter 20, it opens with Hezekiah gravely ill and facing certain death. The prophet Isaiah comes to him with a direct message from the Lord. He says, set your affairs in order because you're going to die and you're not going to recover. Talk about a cheerful message. Isaiah is not one known for his bedside manner anyway. But Hezekiah, in his distress, turns to God. He prays fervently, reminding God that he's been faithful to walk and to do what the Lord has said. And what happens? Well, God hears his prayer. And before Isaiah even gets to the middle of the court, God sends him back with a new message. I heard what you prayed, and I've seen your tears, and I'll heal you. And on the third day from now, you'll go up to the temple of the Lord, and I'll add 15 years to your life. I bet he started to feel better right then and there, don't you? Well, God in his mercy extends Hezekiah's life. And to confirm it, he gives Hezekiah a sign. A shadow moves back 10 steps in a direction that it shouldn't, and it's a miraculous intervention. In his responsiveness to humble, fervent prayer, Hezekiah is not only blessed with a longer life, but he's also revered as a very sharp guy. And during his reign, he had a tunnel constructed to bring water into the city, which is still a marvel of engineering to this day. In fact, if you go to Israel today and you take a tour, you can actually go and tour this tunnel and actually walk through it. Like I said, Hezekiah is a pretty smart guy, but perhaps he's getting a little too proud or just a little too big for his britches. And because of that pride, he's not afraid to let people know about it. And here's a good example of it. Here's where we see Hezekiah make his big mistake. When he's recovering, he receives envoys from Babylon who come to pay him a visit because word of his illness had reached the king of Babylon, and the king of Babylon sends his respects. Here's where he does something that's really going to cost Judah dearly. Of course, now he's recovered, and he starts showing them all of his treasures in his kingdom, all of his armory, everything that he's got. Isn't that what you do when strangers come to visit? You show them where all of your valuable possessions are hidden, and you give them passwords to your bank account. You might as well show them where you hide the key to the front door while you're at it. Can't you just envision God and Isaiah shaking their heads saying, bless his heart? Well, Isaiah warns him one day that all of this will be carried off by Babylon. And Hezekiah's response, well, it's interesting. He seems relieved. At least it's not going to happen during his lifetime, and there'll surely be peace and security. Personally, I think this shows a slight lapse in his usual foresight and perhaps a bit of complacency after such a divine intervention. But overall, Hezekiah's reign was marked with a deep commitment to God. Now, hold on to your hats because we're about to meet Hezekiah's son, Manasseh, in 2 Kings chapter 21. And the contrast couldn't be more shocking. After his father's righteous reign, Manasseh completely undoes everything that Hezekiah had worked for. He reigns for an astonishing 55 years, and during that time, he actively promotes evil. He rebuilds the high places that Hezekiah had destroyed. He erects altars to Baal, and he even worships the starry hosts of heaven. He sets up the Asherah poles again, in the house of the Lord itself. Can you imagine the audacity? I can see Hezekiah looking around, pointing a finger, saying, "Are you sure you're my son?" But wait, there's more. Manasseh sacrifices his own son on the fire. He practices sorcery and divination, and he consults with mediums and spiritists. Ugh. Does this remind you of another king? Saul, maybe? Maybe not killing his son, but the rest of it? Well, the Bible says he did much evil in the eyes of the Lord, arousing his anger. No kidding. And he led Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem further and further astray, more than any other nation that the Lord had destroyed before them. This wasn't just passive disobedience. This was a full-on, active, zealous pursuit of evil. The Lord sends prophets to warn Manasseh and his people, but they pay no attention. Manasseh even sheds very innocent blood, filling Jerusalem from one end to the other. Perhaps he was persecuting those who remained faithful to God, or he was just that evil. The narrative of Manasseh is a stark reminder that even good parents don't always guarantee righteous children. Our choices are our own, and the consequences of Manasseh's profound wickedness, they're severe. God declares that he'll bring such a disaster on Jerusalem and Judah that the ears of everyone who hears of it will tingle. He'll wipe Jerusalem clean, just as one wipes a dish and turns it upside down. This prophecy is a foreshadowing of an eventual destruction and exile. So, what can we learn from this powerful contrast between father and son? Hezekiah, in his sickness and his distress, turns to God. And God responds with grace that is extending his life. His reign, while it wasn't perfect, it's largely characterized by his devotion. Manasseh, on the other hand, well, he embraced wickedness with open arms, actively defiling what his father had purified, leading the entire nation into severe idolatry. It makes it clear the importance of personal faith and obedience. While Hezekiah's legacy was one of reform, Manasseh, well, it was just plain spiritual decline and evil. It shows us that the true faith isn't inherited. It must be chosen personally, and that our choices, for good or for ill, have far-lasting and far-reaching impacts, not just for ourselves, but those around us, and for future generations. So which king would you prefer to be around in these chapters? What lessons do we take away from their vastly different reigns? And do you recognize any similarities in what's going on in our world today? Well, let me know in the comments below. Also, congratulations on beginning your 8th month in our reading plan together. I hope you're finding this helpful and that you're making it an essential part of your day. Remember to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.